Alright, so as we discussed earlier, Roblox is trying to deal with a pretty bad situation, especially where they've lost $70 billion in stock value, and they're about to face their own investors and shareholders in court in the future since the August 7th deadline just passed yesterday. So essentially, in an effort to navigate this whole situation, they're basically trying to find ways to squeeze the whole platform for as much money as possible before things get even worse. And to do that, they decided to drop a new post on DevForum that pretty much shows that a homepage is going to treat games on the platform starting in late August. So apparently, if your game has strong retention, improving monetization, which is basically just adding more microtransactions and cash grabs, can help you earn more home impressions on the platform. But the biggest flaw with this whole plan is that a brand new game needs to be actually shown to people before it can start keeping players around for a long time or showing that it can make real money from those players. You can't really prove to the system that people love your game if it refuses to share your games to anybody in the first place, which creates a pretty bad situation where older games are the only ones getting pushed to the front page, while brand new games are left to die out without making any sort of progress whatsoever. Imagine spending months making a passion-driven game with great features and a fun experience that people enjoy playing every single day without feeling forced to spend their money on it. Because you actually respect your audience and choose not to fill your game with microtransactions to squeeze all their money out, the system decides that your game isn't good enough and immediately buries it under a pile of older games. Now things get even worse when you take a look at what actually happens to a normal developer trying to publish a brand new game on the platform today. And this is something that I actually did not touch upon in my previous video, but fortunately I didn't, because otherwise I'll be explaining myself all over again. But I digress. Even if someone makes a really good game that people generally enjoy and tries to put it out for everyone to see, the algorithm automatically sets the game to an audience of people who are 16 years and older. So to break out of the restricted category and actually unlock the all ages rating to reach younger audiences, you would have to somehow grind your way to getting 500 highly engaged players within 60 days. And this would put certain developers in a pretty confusing situation where they have to find a way to get older players to stick around in the game that was specifically created for younger kids. Imagine spending all your free time making a family-friendly game made for younger audiences, only to realize they have to somehow promote it to teenagers and adults just to pass a verification check on the website. To this day, it still makes zero sense to force a family-friendly game to build an audience of older players before it is even allowed to be shown to everyone on the platform, and it literally stops almost every single new game run in its tracks before it even gets a real chance to build an audience. But the thing is that you have two options to get past this barrier and unlock your game for everyone to play without getting stuck in the restricted 16+ category. And that is to either manage to pass the requirement of getting 500 highly engaged players in a short amount of time, or you hand over a one-time fee of 100,000 Robux to get a fast review and skip the whole process entirely. If you want to reach that requirement naturally without paying that huge fee up front, you can't just get a bunch of random clicks on your page and call it a day, because the algorithm requires your game to have some players who actually stay in the game and return on multiple different days. So because the homepage will not show your new game to anybody, your only option to find these players is to spend real money running ad campaigns across the website, and that's considering you're wealthy enough to actually even afford it. Yeah, I'm not kidding about that, because in some cases, it's basically a huge money pit that drains your savings with almost zero actual results to show for it, since you have these cases where people spend close to $300 on running ads for brand new games in hopes of getting enough traffic to hit that requirement. And despite getting thousands of clicks from those ads, they barely get enough highly engaged players because the number of players who spend some Robux or stay in their games is just that low. So depending on the type of game you're working on, unless your game is a cash grab filled with microtransactions, you would have to spend about $900 or probably even more money to actually get past 500 highly engaged players. And if you think I'm kidding, this is actual proof that you could be running ad campaigns for 2 straight weeks, getting hundreds of thousands of visits, and somehow having to spend about $1,000 just to barely hit that requirement at the very last second. So at this rate, you can't even argue that trying to hit that requirement is any better, because you either burn $1,000 on a stressful ad campaign just to prove your game is good enough, or you surrender and hand the company the same $1,000 you would use to bypass the requirement with the 100,000 Robux fee. And the thing is that big corporate studios can treat that huge fee like pocket change and instantly buy their way to the front page without even trying at this point, while passionate developers who do not have thousands of dollars lying around are basically stuck with literally no way out. So unless you're a wealthy or rich person who can even afford enough money for all of this, you are basically screwed. And this brings us right back to the news article we talked about, where the Roblox Corporation complained that there aren't any viral games coming up anymore, when they're the ones who have intentionally built a system that legally blocks new games from ever blowing up in the first place. You can't just go in public and complain about lack of new viral games when you have built a homepage and an age rating system that forces new games behind a $1,000 paywall before they can even attempt to gain any real traction. And so far, it doesn't even help the fact that their own investors are going to come in and bite them in the back, especially when it's basically just Robux begging for more money and nobody's coming to actually give them as much money as they used to before. In fact, it might probably even tank their bookings to a negative decline when they get to the third quarter of this year and end up dropping their stock value all the way down to $10 to $20 before you even know it. So remember to wake me up in the future if that actually happens.